All right, so a while ago, I made a video talking about Trey Reed, and that is the young man who was found hanging at Delta State University. And my commentary, my point in making that video is that the boy was found hanging, and then the next day, the police deemed that it was a suicide. And I was like, well, gosh, how did you come to that conclusion that quickly? Um, it just seemed kind of strange to me, and just to label that as suicide just almost seemed like the easy layup. Well, more of that's been going on, and I looked into Trey Reed's situation, and that's still what they're going with. I thought that like Colin Kaepernick was going to um, do like an independent autopsy. That I have not heard about, but I did a very quick um, search about that. But the local authorities are still maintaining that he committed suicide. Now, if they had taken their time and come to that conclusion, I maybe it would have been a little bit more acceptable to me, but they came up with that the next day. So I find that to be questionable. Okay, there was a concert in Michigan called the Electric Forest concert, or like music festival or something. There was a man named Jared Jackson, and he was found hanged nearby in a forest that was deemed a suicide by the Michigan Highway Patrol. Again, very quickly. Now, how does a person go from, yay, let's go to this music festival with my friends, to, yeah, I'm gonna go hang myself in a tree? Like, how do you go from one to the other that quickly? And why would the police just go and just assume that right away? Like, what indication did they have that that was a suicide as opposed to foul play? I think that that is just very, very strange. Alrighty. Tasia Fortune, that was a woman that was found hanged. She was in Mississippi, and she was found hanging in an abandoned house. Um, yeah, again, it's being deemed a suicide by the authorities in Jackson, I do believe. And here's another one, another Michigan connection. There is a woman who traveled from Michigan to Miami, and she ended up being found hanged in a park in Miami. And again, that's being deemed a suicide. So, Miami, that's known as a vacation spot. So, how does one go from, yay, let's go to Florida, to supposedly like hanging themselves in a tree? Again, I don't understand how they come to these conclusions, especially that quickly. And one of these girls, I think that, I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the one in Florida that was found in Miami. They're trying to pin it on an ex-boyfriend. And when women die, honestly, that's the first person who I pin it on as well. But this time, I do not think that that is the case, because usually those girls end up either shot or strangled, not hanged. So that's very strange. And you might be saying to me, but Shannon, what about black on black crime? Well, that's rarely a mysterious death, like a drive-by shooting or beating someone and pummeling them to death. Like, that is not um, mysterious. Now, you might not know exactly who did it, but it's not mysterious so that it could be labeled as a suicide. So that those two conversations, I don't feel like really intersect. So anyway, yeah, there's all that. And of course, there's a situation with Nolan Wells. That was the boy who went out with his friends in Mississippi to some island and did not return home alive. Just the way people are reacting to that whole situation is just really strange, like harassing his mother and all this stuff. Um, Again, that's also being labeled. Again, like they're just too quick on this type of stuff. Um, that was labeled, I guess, like no foul play or an accident or he drowned. But to me, it does not make sense. So that's pretty much all I had to say. I just wanted to talk about some of these weird happenings. Um, like Nolan Wells, he went off with friends. The friends supposedly left without him, but they had his cell phone. This one who went to the concert in Michigan, the Electric Forest concert, they say that he left alone and left behind his cell phone. It really just doesn't make sense. And one thing that I learned from the Judge Judy show is that if it doesn't make sense, it is not true. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about that because I talked about this issue before when Trey Reed died in Mississippi. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, yeah, it is Mississippi. People in Mississippi are like, oh, gee, I can't believe this happened to us. Now, all of these situations happened in the South, except for the one that happened in Michigan. Michigan is really another weird state. That's the state where I grew up. However, I am from, I believe, the safest part, which would be Detroit, because the rest of it is weird. There's always some weird stuff going on. Or I'll say there's a lot of weird stuff that comes out of that state. Like, for instance, like the Oklahoma City bombers came from there, and like there were a bunch of guys who tried to abduct the governor of Michigan, the current governor, a few years ago, and they just got a slap on the wrist. There's always some weird stuff going on in Michigan outside of Detroit. Detroit is like the sanest part, in my opinion. Say what you want about that, but that is what I think. But anyway, just want to talk about that. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye.